Hi everyone. This morning I'm playing with little leaves and I get asked about leaves a lot. So I thought as well I was going to incorporate it with, I use the side of my brush a lot. And I noticed that the other day and thought, I've never really talked about that, but the side of our brush can be really great for creating those thicker, going from maybe the point of your brush, the tip or toe of your brush into the belly of your brush. And you can use it for either petals or leaves. So I'm just going to show you how I would use it for my leaves. So I've got my palette here, and this, by the way, is my 8 Velvet Touch round brush. I love it because of the feel, that Velvet Touch, and it's the short handle. And then today I am using my Artisto pad. These are a really, really great beginner pad. You get them in a pack of 3, I think for maybe $20, and they're 140 pound cold press, 30 sheets each. And I label them and I categorize them all. So they also, by the way, you can pull the sheet out. They're perforated, so that's kind of nice too if you did a special painting you want to gift to someone. I'm going to just go ahead and give these are my Laying Water paints, by the way, watercolor pigments. Just going to give them a quick spray. I love their colors. Look how vibrant they are. This is my favorite green, by the way. And you'll find, you probably have your favorite green, but my favorite green is that yellow green. And I also like mixing my olive and my tree green. I think that's a really pretty combo. So this is the olive green going into my paint just with the side of my brush. So I protect the tip of my brush and then scraping it off to get all that paint out of there. And then I'll go into my sap green or tree green and just put it next to it and kind of let them merge. And I'm putting enough water in my palette here just so it moves pretty freely. If I lifted up my palette and tilted it, it would move. So it's about 50 paint, 50 pigment, something like that. So let's go ahead and go in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my brush kind of vertically. Anytime I want to use the tip of my brush, I'm going to come more, I'm going to be holding my brush horizontally is what I meant to say. And if I want to just get that tip of my brush, I'm going to bring my brush straighter up, more vertical, because then that will get the tip and not the belly of the brush, which is going to make a wider brush stroke. Let's go ahead and I'm going to start here. So I want both those colors in there just so I get kind of a fun mix of the two. I love having my paints mix on my watercolor paper. I think that's really fun. So let me just start here. And what I'm going to do is just use the tip of my brush, and then I start pushing out to the side, and I'm using my brush on its side. So let me do that one more time. Tip of my brush, side of my brush. And then I'm going to do the other side here. Point, side of my brush, and just a little stem there. Okay. And then let's do another one, let's say right here. So tip of my brush, side of my brush. See that nice wide stroke I get? And then one more time, tip, side of my brush. And I'm also putting more pressure on my brush. The other thing I want to do before this dries is I just rinsed my brush. And by the way, I have a clean water and a rinse water. And I love mixing brown with my leaves. I just think it's really pretty. Now, hopefully by the time I get in there and do that, it's going to still be a little wet. Yeah. I just love those colors together. I think they're really, really pretty. Okay, picking up some more of that green and maybe just coming out with a little stem there. So right there, I'm using a really, really light touch. And the tip, the very tippy tip of my brush. Point to the side. And you could actually even just do one side. You don't have to do both sides. tip, press down, and I even left a little bit there. So let's see, let's play with that light green that I love. And loading my brush and then just tapping it off a bit. You could also use a paper towel to tap off your brush, and it will get rid of that extra paint. So whichever's more comfortable for you. And let's just create another leaf here. So here's my branch, and then point, press with the side of my brush. And I feel like I want to make the other side a tiny bit darker. Point, side of my brush, drag it. There we go. Like that. That stem got a little thick. And then I just dipped into my brown. Just love those colors when they mix together. I think they're so pretty. And let's see, how about if we bring a branch out this way? So I'm just going to rinse that brown off my brush and tip to the side of my brush. So I'm really tip, side of my brush. I'm pressing down on my brush so I can get that wide brush stroke, and then point and coming up. Now I can go into those, rinse my brush, and let's see, let's add in a tiny bit of, let's just see what this color of green is. I don't usually use that color, but that's okay. Let's try it out. Point. Ooh, that's kind of pretty. Point, side of my brush. And if it's wet, you can just kind of tap in there and let it blend. But look at those beautiful colors. And just to point out, these are darker values, meaning there's more pigment in the paint that I mixed up than there is water, so it creates a darker value. This is more water. So look at how the value is different. But what I wanted to just share that I'm noticing is this leaf here, because of the lighter value, it looks like it's a little bit more in the background. So that's kind of fun. So let's do another one here. Just going to create the little stem, and let's come here, point, press, side of my brush again. There we go. And then I'm just kind of pulling some of that paint over. Let's do another one here. And I really just, I almost can't stand not to add in some of that brown because I think they're so pretty together. So here's a stem. I'm just going to rinse my brush a bit. Pick up some of that green and maybe add in some of that yellow green in the Mylang palette here. Tap off my brush. And let's go in and point, press, point, press. And I want to join up with that brown so that I can get some of that brown to bleed in just a tiny bit, like that. So pretty. Can add in some brown to that. And you can go back into these and just add some hard lines once they start drying. If I wanted to maybe draw some veins, I could do that. Now that's still wet. Now this really requires a light touch for creating those tiny lines. So I've got my brush held vertical and I'm just barely touching in. Or maybe I want to make a shadow. And then keeping in mind, I get asked this a lot too, that your leaves are sometimes just, they all look the same and so on. So create some little dabs with the brush. So point, dab. There you go. Point, dab. And it just looks like it's a little tiny bud of a leaf. Point, dab. There we go. There's always some of those on plants, I think. Point, dab. And this, for me, is really relaxing to play with these things in the evening. So making them longer, shorter. How about if we do one that's like a wiggle? So point, use the side of my brush, and let's just wiggle it like that. That's a fun leaf. And then I want to use some of that brown to go in. I'm going to rinse my brush to get that brown off, and then using a darker value, let's just go into this one, meaning I have more pigment to water more mixed in there. I'm still tapping off my brush, but let's just go along the side and wiggle our brush a bit. Like that. Look how fun that is. Let's wiggle that brush again over here. Point, wiggle, 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 wiggle. And there you go. So those are some different really fun leaves you can do. Let's see. Make one come out here. And let's see what other kind of leaf we can make. Just a bunch of dabs like this. So there's an interesting leaf. This could kind of be like a rose leaf. A rose leaf might be a little bit wider. So let me just push up here in my camera. And let's do one more of those. So dab, 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 like that. Let me pick up a little bit more paint. I know my roses kind of have these big fat leaves. The other thing my roses have, let me just grab another brush. This is my kind of my companion brushes, 6 long round and an 8 Velvetouch. And I notice a lot of my roses have some pink in them, which how fun is that? Because that's pretty much my favorite color. So you could add in a little touch of pink here. I think that's really pretty. And that just so reminds me of a rose. I could go back in here and do a little bit of lifting just to create a little highlight. So these are all different and interesting ways that you could play with your leaves. So I've got using lighter values and darker values. Oop. So lighter values and darker values. I've got some fat leaves. I've got some little buds. And look how interesting that is. It really makes you want to kind of get into the painting and see what's going on there. I made a little rose leaf, kind of a rose leaf, maybe a smaller one, wiggling my brush. So I hope this gives you a few ideas. I love playing with leaves. I don't know what it is. I love doodling and I love playing with leaves. I just think there's just something to it for me. I think it's just kind of a no thinker. So I could go in here again and add some more. Same with here. Just add in some little veins. I could go in and add in some darker. How about if we darkened all this side in? Then it's going to look like it's in a shadow and it's kind of folded up, doesn't it? So these are the type of things I really love doing at night, because when I play like this, it gives me some really great ideas. So that is a perfect example of creating that dark, and then it gives you that feel of the leaf being turned up. So lots of fun things you can do here. And I always encourage, you know, get on and play and use your brushes in different shapes and sizes and pressures, and just play and see what you can come up with. All right, well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you play. I'm going to do a little bit more playing here this evening, and I hope this was fun for you. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for being a part of my community. And if you do like it, you know, just hit the subscribe button, and hopefully I get to see you again. I love seeing comments from people, the same people. I kind of feel like we become little kindred spirits of watercolors. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you soon. Most of all, have fun.